Thank you so much for staying with us. Now let's get to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by the former Nigerian ambassador to Libya, Mohammed Kawu Ibrahim, for discussion on Niger Republic dilemma of ECOWAS. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador.
Very much for having me.
It's a month now since the coup in Niger Republic. But no resolution to this logjam yet. Now, do you agree that the crisis is becoming intractable?
I think that is a strong word to use, but it's a bit disappointing that there is no clear progress within this period of 1 month. And personally, I would hold the junta in Niamey responsible for this development, because right from the beginning, they snowballed the delegations that went to meet them in order to start dialogue with them, one after the other, for more than a week. They lost this opportunity. And even now, there's no sign of good faith, from them. Even when they are saying they are ready for dialogue, the ECOWAS has made it very clear to them that President Bazoum is still the president of Niger, recognized by ECOWAS, being the legally elected, legitimate president of that country. And he is still under detention. Not only he, but his family. And even after all the delegations.
Ambassador, are you there? All right, if you can hear me, the junta has refused to shift ground despite pressure from ECOWAS and lately the African Union. But for how long do you think the coup leaders can sustain this?
I don't think they will sustain it for much longer if the ECOWAS countries continue to mount the pressure that has been declared from their meeting on the 30th of July, and which was reiterated in the summit of 10th of August. Right now, the pressure of the sanction is biting hard on them. They are already complaining that there is no food, no medication. The children are dying in hospital, according to them, because of lack of electricity. So this is what is making them even to start talking with the talking about dialogue, starting from the time the 14th Emir of Kano met them to the Islamic cleric, and then now General Abdusalami Abubakar. But they are, as I've said, they have not shown any good faith yet that will show a sign that they are ready for dialogue. It is very important that this sign of good faith should come from them first. Otherwise, this sanction should go on incremental basis. And I'm sure ECOWAS will not accept the kind of condition they are given for dialogue. That is to accept that they are going to stay there for 3 years. That is simply unacceptable. I think that was, they are playing the same script that the coup juntas in that country did in 2010 when they overthrew the government of Tanja. They wanted to stay for 2 years, and ECOWAS refused. Eventually, they stayed for 1 year. So if now they are saying that they are going to stay for 3 years, their objective is probably to stay for 2 years, just like the government of Mali and Guinea and Burkina Faso have been able to extract from ECOWAS. I think the coup in Niger must really bring to an end. All efforts should be made to bring to an end this trend of coups in ECOWAS. If it continues this way, there will be no ECOWAS, and Nigeria will be the greatest loser, because there's no country in ECOWAS that had made compromise, that had sacrificed for the success of ECOWAS like Nigeria did, in terms of money spent in keeping peace in the 7 countries that ECOWAS sent peacekeeping operations. We have so far lost over 1,000 men in ECOWAS peacekeeping operations. All this will be in vain if Nigeria does not stand firm in making sure that there is democracy and good governance in ECOWAS. ECOWAS is and should be a serious organization. Each member state has subscribed to following the protocols of ECOWAS. If each country starts going its own way, then there will not be a community, there will not be a union. So the junta in Niger must understand that. What they are doing so far, especially in Niger, is to whip up so much sentiment against Nigeria. They have not realized that, or they refuse to realize that this is not Nigeria versus Niger, it's ECOWAS. And when other countries stage their own coup, Niger also joined ECOWAS in putting pressure, putting sanctions on them. Why is it now that their own soldiers have staged a coup against a legally and constitutionally elected government? Why can't the same pressure be put on them? I'm surprised, really, at the action of many people in Nigeria. When you talk about making sure that these coup plotters are uprooted, and when we say we are going to use all the pressure, including the use of force, nobody is saying we have no territorial ambition against Niger. Nobody is saying that we are going to attack Niger. But these coup plotters must be uprooted by all means possible. And I think ECOWAS should still put on the table the use of cohesive diplomacy. Force and diplomacy are the same side of one coin. So there can't be effective diplomacy without the use of force.
All right, so Ambassador, now that President Tinubu has sent Islamic leaders to Niger, again, in continuation of the dialogue, I guess this is what you mean by mounting pressure. Is this a positive sign?
Personally, I feel we should really focus on probably one mediator. If we are having several mediators, then we're likely to have cross communications. And I think we're getting to that point. I think the Islamic clerics have made their point. We're grateful for what they have done, just like Khalifa Sanusi had gone there. And so the leader of the junta, we're happy and grateful for that. Abdul Salami has also gone and seen them. And the messages coming from the junta has not changed. They are still holding President Bazoum captive. As I stated earlier, there is no sign of good faith from them whatsoever. Instead, they are whipping sentiment against Nigeria and the ECOWAS. And the most surprising thing is this propaganda of theirs is gaining currency in Nigeria. I am concerned that we are not acting on principles. Even when you talk about the use of force, ECOWAS had sent the military, its own military, on peacekeeping operations or restoring democracy to several countries in the community, from Liberia to Sierra Leone to Guinea-Bissau to Cote d'Ivoire to Mali to Gambia. And all this period, I have not had any reaction from Nigeria that there should not be the use of force. It is all agreed now that we should put maximum pressure and the use of force will be at the last resort. And I think this should be on the table. Mind you, up to this period, Niger has not said we are coming out of ECOWAS or we are no longer members of ECOWAS. And for as long as they remain members of ECOWAS, then they must play by the rule of ECOWAS.
Are you there, Ambassador?
And everything should be made. Yes.
All right. So let's look at this new dimension. This new dimension to the crisis, which is the intervention by Algeria, which has sent envoy to Niger towards resolving this crisis. How critical is this?
Well, Algeria is a neighbor of Niger, and I think Algeria should also understand that what Nigeria is doing is to bring peace and stability in Niger. Already the coup has caused so much problem on the innocent people in that country, and the junta should be held responsible for that. The AU has also indicated its own
Ambassador, are you there? All right, tonight I've been speaking with a former Nigerian ambassador.
What is happening in AU?
Please go ahead.
Hello?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So Algeria is a member of the AU, and they should understand the seriousness of the action of the junta. Then that's why the AU has suspended Niger, from the Union. And I hope Algeria will cooperate with ECOWAS in ensuring that this crisis in Niger is not allowed to deteriorate, and President Bazoum is restored as the legitimate president of Niger.
So one of the measures...
Yes, go ahead.
All right. One of the measures adopted by ECOWAS to dissuade the coup plotters is sanctions. Do you really think this is working?
It is working. It is working very, very much, because that's the only language that the junta seem to understand. They have requested for lifting of that sanction, and they have not responded in any way to the request by ECOWAS, one, to release Bazoum so that he will continue as the legitimate president of that country. They are only talking about the lifting of the sanctions. And this sanction, of course, nobody is going to lift without the sign of good faith, as I have said, coming from them. Unfortunately, not all the ECOWAS countries, well, in particular Burkina Faso, has not been respecting, the sanction. They have broken the sanction. They are sending all kinds of materials, including food and medicine to Niger. And if ECOWAS countries do not respect the declaration by the extraordinary summit their leaders held on the 30th of July, reiterated these demands at the meeting of the 10th of August, then the Niger junta will not understand the concern of African leaders towards the coup. And every action should be taken to ensure that this coup comes to an end and there is no repeat of coups after coups in our sub-region. And that is what the Nigerian government is doing. And in particular, we should be very grateful for the action taken by President Tinubu right from the first day. That was 26th of July, when the coup was staged. First, there was a delegation that was sent within 24 hours before even the ECOWAS meeting. And as I have said, they rebuffed that delegation. And for more than a week, delegation after delegation had been sent to Niamey at the instance of President Tinubu. And if they had listened to the demands of ECOWAS and at least had shown some kind of courtesy in receiving these envoys that had been said, by now progress would have been made towards resolving the crisis in Niger. There is none up to now. Instead, they are talking of getting Wagner forces, to come to Niger, which is only going to complicate the case, because we have seen Wagner, they have been in Mali, there has not been any improvement in the political crisis in that country. They have been in Central African Republic, which is not in ECOWAS though, but the political and economic crisis in Central Africa is still there. The Wagner forces were in Libya. They have not resolved the problem. They are also in Sudan. There has not been any problem in the political crisis in that country. And it will be a tragedy if the Nigerian junta will bring the Wagner group right on our border. ECOWAS should resist that. Nigeria should resist that by all means necessary.
But Ambassador, talking about these sanctions, many have argued that it's the ordinary Nigerians that are feeling the impact of these sanctions.
Well, that's true. And then it's the responsibility of this ordinary Nigerian to understand and to show to the junta that they cannot continue to bear the brunt of their irresponsibility by dethroning a legally elected president. If they don't show their displeasure, it's another way probably of saying that they are accepting the coup as a way of life in Niger. It is up to them to show to the junta that there is a limit to how far they will continue bearing the brunt of these sanctions. And I'm sure with time, it will get to that, because for the first time, people are coming out to protest in spite of everything that the junta had done to suppress any legal protest. They went to the extent of filling their stadium with military people in mufti to show that the junta has the support of the population, which is not true. And they have suppressed every attempt by the same innocent people to come and show their lack of acceptance to the military. And this is now beginning. The civilians are now coming out protesting in spite of all the high-handedness of the military. The continuation of this sanction will put additional pressure on the junta. And I believe that every effort should be made. If we can't increase, at least let's sustain this sanction on them. That is the only thing that will bring them to dialogue with ECOWAS.
So the AU also suspended Niger until the junta restores constitutional order. What impact is this having on the matter?
Well, ECOWAS, the AU, is just to show solidarity with ECOWAS. It's at the level of ECOWAS. It's our own union, ECOWAS. ECOWAS is the first country to put the protocol on democracy and good governance before even the AU. And we have seen how military coups had affected not only peace and stability, but even the economic development of the ECOWAS. And as I have said, Nigeria should not allow that, because there's no country that had made so much sacrifice to see to the sustenance of peace and stability in this sub-region. And that is what President Tinubu is doing. That is what other ECOWAS countries are also doing. And Nigeria should support our own president. The wrong impression that we are going to attack Niger, as I have said, we have no territorial ambition, in Niger. All these measures taken is to ensure that the military junta is uprooted. And I believe in no distant future, this sanction will be enough to achieve this objective.
So I would like us to also talk about Burkina Faso. That's one country offering support to Niger. I mean, the country has also offered to send equipment and food to the country in breach of the ECOWAS sanctions. What's the implication of this?
Well, Burkina Faso itself is not that it's a food sufficient country. And whatever they are doing to show their support to Niger is going to be limited. It's not going to ease the sanction that is placed by the whole of ECOWAS. We should ensure that, apart from Burkina Faso, no other country breaks this sanction. It is for the good of ECOWAS. And these sanctions are not only biting on the citizens of Niger, they are also biting on the border communities with that country, in Nigeria, in Ghana, and it's a period that we should all make a sacrifice. It is very important that the correct message is sent not only to the Nigerians, but to all ECOWAS countries, and in particular in Nigeria. I am always perplexed by the response of Africans. It seems we don't work on principles. I ask myself several questions. One, was there a coup in Niger? Was a democratically elected government was there no coup against a democratically elected government in that country? The answer is yes. Does that violate the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance? The answer is yes. Has this happened in other ECOWAS countries before? The answer is yes. Were there sanctions, similar sanctions to these countries when there was a coup? The answer is yes, there was coup. Were there even military intervention in some of the ECOWAS countries to restore democracy and good governance? The answer is yes. I can't understand why the case of Niger should be different. I can't understand why it was acceptable to Nigerians, that it was morally right to go and send military to Guinea-Bissau, to send military to Gambia, and the same military to Cote d'Ivoire, and you don't apply the same moral principle or political principle to Niger. When it is Niger, the reaction is different. We simply say, well, these are our brothers. So what? There are rules. ECOWAS have to follow these rules. If you don't want to be a member of ECOWAS, then fine. It's not by force that Niger or any other country should be in ECOWAS. But for as long as you are in ECOWAS and you are enjoying the benefit of being in ECOWAS, then you must accept the rules and procedures and the protocols of the ECOWAS. Incidentally and ironically, the same president, the same leader of the junta in Niger, Ibrahim, was also an ECOWAS battalion commander in Cote d'Ivoire. And he didn't see anything wrong in going to restore democracy in Cote d'Ivoire. And the same thing cannot be applied to his own country. There are so many contradictions. And Nigerians should really understand that. It has gone to an extent that I had a few people who are saying Nigeria should leave ECOWAS. It's really incredible. You know, those who are violating the ECOWAS rules, if they want to go, they should leave. But for as long as ECOWAS remains, just like any union, any economic union, any part of the world, it must stand by certain principles. If these principles are not there, that's why the EU is one of the most successful economic unions, because the principles are there. There must be democracy, there must be same economic and monetary policies. There are laws that bind and bring together this union. That's the only way government, good governance and democracy can be sustained. But if you allow other members to violate and now sentiment come in, then you are not doing good, to ECOWAS. And this is what Nigerians should understand.
All right, Ambassador, let's take a quick break.